Hello everyone, this is Jeff with Gamer Theory. This is my review of Civilization VII on the PC. I did review this using the Founders Edition, so there might be a few extras that I experienced that you may not see if you're buying a different package or you're experiencing this on console sometime down the line. I just want everyone to be aware of that. Also, I'm trying something a little bit different. This is my first YouTube video review of a game here on the Gamer Theory channel. So I'm going to try something. I'm going to try and review this unscripted. I kind of know what I want to say when I want to talk about, but after pouring well over 100 hours into this game, I just want to go more what I'm thinking as I'm thinking it. So if it's a little bit messy, let me know. I'm happy to take the feedback and try a different style in future reviews. If you like me just sort of saying what I think as I think it, and this style of review works from you, let me know that as well. I'm open to kind of shaping where things go forward on this channel as it evolves. Anyway, back to the Civilization VII review. This is actually the first Civilization game I have reviewed since Civ Rev, Civilization Revolution, on the Nintendo DS. So yes, it's been some time since I've done a full review on this series. And launching Gamer Theory for what I believe is now the fourth time, I felt I might as well take a franchise I've loved since I was a kid and take a look at its newest entry. So I went all in on this one, and I have a lot of thoughts. As mentioned, I'm a lifelong fan of the series. I remember playing Civ 1, 2, and 3 alongside one of my friends from elementary school up through high school, and we grew with the series. We tried out all the iterations, the offshoots, and then it was sometime around Civ 5, I lost contact with that friend, but we both continued playing as far as I know. And Civ 5 was kind of the moment when I went from the person who really liked Civ to the person who lost entire nights of sleep to Civ. And so that 5, 6, and now 7 series of entries really were the ones that stole the most time from me. I understand that Civ 4 is the one that the fanatics of the series really hold up as kind of the shining example. If not that, sometimes it's Civ 2. But really it was 5 that it kind of cemented with me and just became this irrational time sink. So let's get into Civ 7 now. So Civ 7, if you have been with the series for a long time, there's a lot that's going to be familiar, especially coming from, say, Civ 5 and 6. And then there's a lot that's just going to be straight up crazy or different or maybe confusing. And I'll try and cover those things. Let me kind of go over the biggest changes. First of all, the game is now split up into ages. So you don't just start out the game and then progress all the way to the end uninterrupted. The game has an antiquity age, an exploration age, and a modern age. Each age is sort of like its own game. You progress, obviously, in the age of antiquity, which is the first age, right from your first initial settler, as you always have. And then that age ends right around the time that you're starting to get to like the religious phase of the game. And that will all take place in the next age, in the age of exploration. During a specific age, there are goals that can only be met in that age, and they'll give you bonus points that kind of give you a leg up in the next age. So you might get bonus points for having a certain number of settlements or what you do with them, or maybe you're very militaristic and you get bonus points for the way that you engaged with the other civilizations through military might. You might get cultural or scientific bonuses based on the types of buildings or the wonders you've built. And at the end of each age, there is both a hard cut to what you're doing, and then there's also some carry forward. Hard cut with carry forward might not make a whole lot of sense when you first hear it, but essentially at the end of an age, whatever you have in progress ends. If you're in the middle of building something, you're not anymore. If you are in the middle of a war, that war will end. If you are in the middle of constructing a wonder, if it's not complete, its construction will be halted. Some units will be carried forward from one age to the next, some will not. It can be a little bit confusing what's going to carry forward and what won't. The Civilopedia does have the information on that, but even with like the tutorial tips on, it can be confusing of what you're going to maintain going forward and what's going to get left behind. Also, at the start of a new age, you're gifted some units. So when a new age begins, you'll have some military units just on the cities that you had. And that leads me into what another one of the big changes is, and it's the way that cities work. Your first settlement is a city. It's the capital, and that's the way it's always been. But when you found a new settlement, it starts out as a town. Towns and cities have some key differences. First of all, towns are limited in the number and types of buildings that they can have. You can't have certain buildings on towns that you can have in cities. But towns don't do production. They must build through purchasing. So if you want to add a building, you buy it. You use gold to buy it. There are some Civ leaders that you're able to purchase using, say, culture, but the vast majority of the game you're purchasing with gold. The towns grow as you're used to. As your population increases, so will your town's limits and cities' limits. But you have a little bit more fine-tuned control over the growth of these towns and cities. If you want to kick your citizen that's working one tile out of a specific tile, you can build over that tile, and then the town will then grow by allowing you to move that citizen into a new tile. This is actually a pretty good tactic for increasing the boundaries of your cities or your towns more quickly. And it's something that at the beginning might be a little bit confusing, but the basic rule, if you're building a new building and the tile you're selecting is green, it will build on that. But if it's yellow, it will evict, so to speak, the citizen from that tile. It will build that building in that space, and then it will have you choose a new spot for that citizen to go to. Over time, you can choose to convert towns into cities, allowing them to build those additional buildings you didn't have access to. But it does change the interactions you have with them once they become a city. You can still purchase buildings. That doesn't change. And then also you gain access to production. But you are not able to specialize cities in the way you can specialize towns. For example, you can take a town and you can designate it, say, as a farming town. You'll get extra food bonuses for the farmed tiles in that town. You can designate it as a mining town, which will give you bonuses for clay pits and mines, things like that. So there are some advantages to towns versus cities. And then one thing that to keep aware of is you can convert all these towns into cities. If the age ends, those cities will become towns into the next age, and just your capital will be the city again. There are certain perks and bonuses that you can get that will allow you to maintain your cities as cities through an age transition, but that's not the norm. You need to earn that, and it's not always the easiest thing to do. So as you play, you'll make decisions on when it's the right time to convert a town into a city. You do that through paying a gold cost, and then that management, a lot of it will be personal preference. Some of it will be dictated by the need for what's going on. Do you need more science buildings, and are you tapped out with your current cities? If you need access to some more science buildings or some more culture buildings that towns don't have access to, then it's a good idea to go ahead and start turning towns into cities. Religion is pretty similar to previous installments, but it has been revamped, and now it's been constrained a bit to just the second age of the game, the exploration age. During this age, you'll be able to build your temples and your missionaries and send them out. Missionaries work pretty similar, where you move up to the cities and you convert those cities to your religion. You convert both the rural districts and urban districts, and you get bonuses for numbers of settlements, both your own and competing civs settlements that follow your religion. And so during the Age of Exploration, it's when you're going to get access to your units that can cross the sea, and that'll let you, explore between the different continents. But this is the only time that you're able to send those missionaries out. So it's really important you're paying attention to what missionaries are in your towns or cities and changing things up, and what missionaries you have going out. And if you play things right, you can get a lot of bonus culture, bonus science, whatever it might be that you kind of tailor it towards with these missionaries that get locked in when the age ends. When you move on to the modern age, you're no longer sending missionaries out. There are a few ways to convert towns, but it's not like it is in the other Civ games. You sort of lose access to the proselytizing method of converting settlements. There's things you can do though, that where if you conquer a city, it automatically becomes converted to your religion, or if you connect trade routes, it becomes converted. That does carry forward to the last age of the game. So while it's always been powerful in Civ games, religion is extremely powerful here as well, but you have a limited time to do it, so you really, really have to focus on it. For some people, that's going to be fun, that scramble to get your missionaries out there, use them to explore some of the map, to get the bonuses from conversion. Others, it's going to be a little bit almost panic-inducing, seeing all these missionaries running around, and you're trying to keep up with them, and you're also trying to manage your other assets. But it's something that it's kind of confusing and tough maybe the first few times you play through the game, but it becomes really second nature as you go. That's going to bring me to another important point of Civ 7. It can be really confusing at times, and that's often true of a new Civ game. It takes some time to adjust, but let's be honest, even though the game's already seen one patch that kind of helped things, the UI, it's not great. It can be confusing to know how building is going to affect a tile, how the districts work, and how adjacency works. It's not indicated very well. And these sloppy integrations can really harm your ability to be strategic until you understand them. So these mechanics, yes, they are confusing. And the first couple times you play, you might not just understand, why am I getting steamrolled? Why am I constantly so far behind? And that's because the AI doesn't have to guess at how the mechanics work. It knows. Now, I'm not saying the AI is the greatest. It does have its issues and it can be manipulated, but it's a pretty steep learning curve to get these mechanics down. That said, I do think the mechanics actually are great. They're just confusing. After you get into the game, you start understanding how a lot of things works, how the tech tree works, how building certain things opens up paths to other things, how the districts work and interplay with one another. Then you'll start to see there is a rich base in this game, and I think it points to great things going forward mechanically for the game. It's just a huge mental tax on you to learn it at this point. Before I get too far away from the ages, I do want to mention that with the 3 ages, it is a major pro and con battle between the way they work. The hard cutoff isn't always the greatest thing. It can be really frustrating if you're in the middle of a major war and say you're really close to capturing a key city that's going to be just in the perfect location. It has the resources you want around it, or it has access to the ocean, which is going to be important in a different age. And if the age ends on you and that war automatically ends, it can be frustrating. Maybe you're only a turn or two away from capturing that city, and the age transitions, that war is over, the units that you had out don't carry forward, and that Civ immediately starts reinforcing the areas around that city. It can be really frustrating. Same thing with just building projects. When those get cut off, it's frustrating. But on the other hand, the different ages do give some focus to the game. You understand, okay, here I am in the antiquity. If I'm getting kind of behind as this age is wrapping up, I get a little bit of a soft reset going forward. Yes, a lot of the stuff I did is going to help or harm me into the next age, but I have a chance to reevaluate the direction I was taking. Maybe I was too militaristic for my builds and my layouts, and I actually have a better job kind of focusing on science. It's not so hard to make that shift with those age transitions, so it is really nice to have them. That said, this game desperately needs an atomic age, or whatever they want to call the fourth age. It's really weird launching the game-winning condition through a science victory in the year 1845. It's not as robust of a requirement in the past, and the game just ends before you really feel like it should. To give an example of that, for the science victory, all you need to do is launch an unmanned flight to space. You don't have to do the Mars habitation projects and the hydroponics or any of that stuff like you did in, say, Civ VI. So you create your rocket platform, and when you launch satellite, that's cool. And then you launch manned space program or whatever the specific name is. It just ends. And you look at the date, it's like in the 1840s and it's over. It feels very abrupt, and it almost feels like it just shouldn't be over at that point. Having that be the trigger to the atomic age with a little bit more than we're used to seeing in past Civ games will be, and I know they're going to do it, it will be a welcome addition to the game. We just don't have it so far, so that kind of hurts. A couple of other changes worth mentioning. You no longer have builders. When your city grows, you choose which tile to improve. When you build new buildings, you just choose where to place it, and that's it. No longer are you building builders and then moving them around the map and trying to deal with that or worrying about them being captured, whatever it might be. It's a very nice, clean move forward for the series. And while at first it might seem kind of odd not having those builders, it's really nice, especially with damaged tiles. And they will get damaged a lot. The natural disasters, I think they trigger far more frequently than they should. But just to be able to pay a little bit of gold to fix the tile instead of using a builder, it's a nice improvement. On top of that, city states have been changed. City states now they're independent little, like they look very similar at the beginning. They're just running around just like they used to be, but you have the chance to befriend them through your political influence, which is very important because you get a lot of bonuses by doing so. Those city-states, however, they will not carry forward age to age. You'll have new ones, and if you don't befriend them, another Civ is probably going to do it. You can conquer them and disband them. But new ones will pop up as the game goes on, and they start out as encampments. They grow to become city-states. At that point, you can put political pressure on them to befriend you. You can levy military units like you could. They're similar in a lot of the ways you can use those, but they're a lot different in function with how they pop up and how they fail to transition age to age. I shouldn't say fail to transition. They will transition, but not in the way that you're used to. And it's not a set number of city-states. New ones are cropping up as the game goes on. But befriending them is very important because then you have the option to incorporate them and they can become a town or a city into your empire as you go on. So city-states, I think that's going to be a change that feels pretty natural, but some people they're not going to love it. Other people are going to say this is far and away better. It's going to be a real preference thing, but over time, I don't know if they're going to refine how they work or not. I do think it's a good change for the series. It's just different. And I think different is important for Civilization at this point. The series has been around for a long time. There is that strong DNA of the 4X gameplay very present here, and they do a good job with it. It's just some of these changes are going to be head scratchers for longtime fans and newcomers to the series. They're not going to know. They're just going to see it for what it is, and I think the mechanics are going to be very tough for them to understand. So they're going to have a hard time kind of getting their feet wet in the series if this is their first entry. What I'd like to see as the game grows and progresses through DLC, patches, content updates, whatever it might be, we definitely need a few more leaders. It's really weird that like Gandhi isn't there, for example. he's a staple of this series. And so it's a little odd not having him at launch, but obviously he'll be coming. I actually haven't looked too far ahead to see what the planned additions are with DLC. I know it includes more leaders, but we definitely need that fourth age. That needs to happen. We need some interface cleanup and refinement. It just feels clumsy. It feels like it was designed for console first, and then if you're a mouse user, you just don't seem to be getting quite the, I don't know, slick feeling that you should be getting with a pointer. And I also played this quite a bit on the Steam Deck. It runs very well. If you remember, Civ VI was a total disaster on the Switch. Just end game was a sluggish nightmare. Very beginning of the game through the end runs great on the Switch Deck. Switch Deck, wow, misnomer, Steam Deck. And so it's actually really nice to play on the Steam Deck, except for the interface. Again, it's very cramped. You get a lot of pop-ups that are just covering what you're actually wanting to look at. So I don't know if that's just going to constantly be an issue with the Steam Deck playing in handheld mode, but it'd be nice if they had a way to kind of deal with the fact that it's not super handheld friendly right now as far as the interface. Overall, however, I had a pretty rough, bumpy start with the game, which I think a lot of early reviews, they agreed it was a little bit iffy to start. But I do think as I've easily surpassed over 100 hours with this game, and I've played through with several different leaders and just different styles of play and seen all the victory conditions, I do think we have a great core here. I think the game will be much better, but to be fair to the people who may be looking at buying it today, or just fair to what's before me, I don't want to review it based on potential. I want to review it based on what I see right now. So scoring this, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3.5 out of 5, though I feel like the potential for it to be much better is there. Whether I choose to review it again or not down the line remains to be seen. Maybe I'll review individual DLC pieces, or maybe I'll update my review. As of today, I'm going to go ahead and just say 3.5 out of 5, but it feels like a whole lot more potential, which is important. So once again, thanks for hanging in there. This is kind of a long review. It's also my first video review, and like I said, I did not script this, just kind of did it as things came to mind. If that works for you, let me know. If it sounds messy and amateurish, or you just don't like it, let me know. No hard feelings. I hope to get better at putting out video reviews, and I want to do them in a way that people like to hear them and consume them. Most video reviews, I believe, going forward will be much shorter than this one. This was just a large one to tackle, and it was fun. So thank you very much for hanging in there, and thank you very much for supporting me. I do appreciate it, and look out for more from Gamer Theory soon.